Hello, rich people, help poor people. I'm your administrator, Piyush Mathur, and this is my third video that you could consider to be in the same series. You recall that on December the 6th, 2022, I made a video about those people who seek jobs on this group, but they don't even tell us what job they're looking for, and of course they skip all the other details. Now you might recall that in that video I advised them to provide at least a set of basic information, facts about themselves and their preferences regarding what kind of job, where, location, and so forth that they need to provide in order to be successful in seeking a job on this group, but for that matter, anywhere else. Then I made another video that was on December the 13th, 2022, and it was addressed to those people who claim to be students and seek funds to further their education or for re-registration, something of that nature, But again, they don't tell us anything beyond just that appeal. And in that video, I detailed what they should include in their appeals in order to be not only a bit more successful, but also to be credible at all to anybody. Well, this is the third video, and this is addressed to those people who say that they need funds to start a business, or they say that they need funds to restart a business that got doomed because of some disaster. Most of it is currently the pandemic. And then there are other people, very similar, and they say that they need funds for a small business. Okay? Now you notice that all these three appeals, they are looking for money toward a business, be it a startup or an attempt at restarting something. So in other words, these are sort of either entrepreneurs or wannabe entrepreneurs, you could say. Well, at the very least, they're business people. Well, they claim. Well, but the problem is that, as in the previous categories, these are also the people that do not give any other details. All right? So, who would trust them? Well, I wouldn't trust them to start with. There are so many scammers out there, but that's not even the point, actually. I trust people, and I like people to trust other people. At the same time, I advise nobody, once again, to trust anybody blindly. Okay? So that's just the start of our issues with these sorts of appeals. Next, if you are asking for money for a business, okay, and if you have actually ever done any business, then you must know that details are very important. Location in particular, type of business, of course, your own capabilities, certainly, right? So anybody who actually has any potential to be successful at any type of business would in fact put out those details front and center. Okay? So even if you want to start a business and you are actually a trustworthy person, you won't be trusted to have any potential at all to run a business. Okay? And therefore, nobody would be tempted to give you money except scammers who would claim to try to help you, and they would waste your time, and ultimately they might even exploit you of any money that you may have at that point, right? Well, but the problem is that, of course, we don't really know whether you're a scammer or you are an actual businessman, businesswoman for that matter, or a wannabe entrepreneur, wannabe businessman, any of that. All we know is that there is a Facebook account which is more or less credible, because without that basic threshold of credibility for a Facebook account, I would not have let that post get through to the group's wall. But that's just the very elementary level of credibility. Here you're making a particular claim. I want to start or restart a business, and I need funds for that. So provide the details. Okay? What are the elementary details? Who are you? What are your personal specifics? Because of course, if it is an 8-year-old boy asking for money for a business, then that boy would be perceived differently than, say, an 18-year-old man or an 81-year-old man. Okay? Those perceptions are not unimportant. They help other people assess the situation. Okay? Should I give money to this person, or can I trust this person to do anything with any information that I might provide that could be useful to this person? Okay? Well, that's just one thing. And then you've got to talk about where you're located. Because if you're located in Tanzania, then that location is going to require very different information for any advice to be useful containing that information, right? But on the other hand, if you are in, different from what? Different from any other place, say New York City or Honolulu or New Delhi or Hong Kong, how about Malawi? So all places have different requirements for a business of any level to be successful. But we don't even know what your level is actually. You say that you want to start a small business. That means nothing. That small business may mean, 100 rupees, or it may mean 50 rupees, or it may mean 1 million rupees, you name it. Okay? So anybody who's giving just one sentence, I want to start a business, I need money, or I want to restart a business, I need money, that person is actually conveying a tremendous amount of ignorance and lack of experience as a business person. Okay? But you might say, well, I actually have done business. I have been running this shop in Nairobi, for instance. Unfortunately, I lost that business. Why don't you believe me? It is the fact. Well, here there is another sort of fine piece of advice I would like to give you. Up until now, you had a shop in Nairobi, and that's fine. You were doing probably great up until the pandemic hit or some catastrophe that only you know about. But that was a local business that you started out from some point in your life inside the community. All right? Inside that community. You went to people and maybe you inherited some money, whatever. You started it within that physical location. The rules of the games are completely different when you're seeking funds on the internet. Okay? It's very different ball game because you're not talking to the people who are your relatives or friends or you know, local bank, maybe richer people inside your community. You're not doing that. You're actually coming to the internet. You're coming to a particular group that happens to have, as of now, 65,000 Facebook accounts as registered members. Okay? The question is, how do you convey your need to them credibly as a business person or as a wannabe entrepreneur looking for funds, right? So you give all this information. That's just the basic thing. In reality, if you're seeking funds on the internet with any level of seriousness, then you would produce a business plan. The question is, what is a business plan? Well, you need to check it on the internet. Business plan. Do a search. Okay? Now, I have previously posted and in fact pinned to the group a particular link. That link includes a ton of information useful to entrepreneurs, business people, wannabe entrepreneurs, wannabe business people. It has lots of resources that you could directly utilize and produce a credible business plan. Okay? The problem with business plans is that they can be anywhere from extremely simple to extremely complicated and complex. Okay? It really depends on the magnitude, the size of your business. Okay? So, of course, it is sort of a given that people who are asking for funds on this group are more than likely extremely small business persons, by which I don't mean that they are small people, but their businesses are small as of now, or they are looking to start a business at a very small level because that's what they can do as of now. Nevertheless, small is a relative term, as I mentioned earlier. Okay? So until you put numbers in detail to what your cost is going to be and at what price you expect to sell your merchandise or services, and therefore what the difference between the two is going to be, so that it could tell us what your profit margin is going to be and whether the business is going to be sustainable or not from an economic viewpoint. Until you do that, clearly nobody is going to trust you enough to give you any kind of grant, money, loan, gift, you name it. Okay? So find a suitable online application, and most of these applications are actually free now. Okay? Especially for small entrepreneurs, wannabe entrepreneurs. You find them including through that link which I've posted to the group and pinned to the group. Other than that, I'm also going to post other links, and I keep posting such links actually off and on to the group. These links are to online applications where you can in fact put together a plan. Okay? But before doing that, you would need to do very current research. Okay, this is the material I need, or these are the types of things that I would require toward my business in these quantities. And I would need the help of maybe 4 people to run the business, and I expect them to get, this level of wages per week or per month. Well, this is going to be my cost. This is just the sheer cost of running this business altogether, at this location with these qualifications that I have. All this comes under your business plan. Okay? Start preparing your business plan, or plans rather. Okay? And when you make an appeal, you would want to attach a photo of that business plan. The point is that because a lot of you are just very small business owners or wannabe business owners, your business plan can easily be written within 1 page. Okay? But it has to be well tabulated, detailed within that 1 page, credible. Okay? And only then it would be worthy even, for you to seek help for. Okay? So start working on that. And if you are still too distant from producing a formal business plan, then at least provide the elementary details that I have already mentioned, and that anybody could sort of think of using common sense. Okay? How do I present myself as a person who wishes to start a business? What kind of business? Where am I located? Who am I? At least produce these details. What is the merchandise? You produce nothing and then you make these appeals. Of course, you not only get no leads through your posts, most likely, but also you don't get any offers of collaboration. Okay? So start working on these things seriously. And at this point in time, the group has at least 10 such requests that I have been withholding. Okay? I have been withholding them from being posted, from being put through the members, because I know that their chances of gaining any traction on this group or anywhere else on the internet are minimal. And to say that they're minimal is itself to be charitable, because actually the chances are zero. All right? Start working on all these things, and if you need help, you could, in good faith, contact me, okay, personally. But I need to see that you are being sincere, and only then could I offer my time, which is extremely valuable, which you might not realize. All right? So get down to it. Thank you, and don't lose heart. Bye-bye.